Today we're on trail in Sedona, Arizona, reviewing this custom Axial frame. Axial made this frame to my exact specifications and my desired geometry. Go watch my first look video to learn more about this bike, like weight and tire clearance and geometry and all that stuff. I've got that on my first look video. Today we're taking it on the trail to ride it. Last week I took it on a 3-day, 135-mile bikepacking trip with my buddy Cody. We put it through all sorts of different terrain, fire roads, single track, chunk, big rocks, steep stuff, flat stuff, and I'll be talking about that today. But today we're also going to take it on the trail in trail mode and see how it does as a trail bike, just a regular everyday mountain bike. All right, we got the chainstay in the super short position. We've got 29 by 26 on a 40i rim. Loving this combo. This is a stiff rim, but even on this frame's soft enough that it doesn't beat you up. These bags are from Reroute Outdoors. Fantastic bags. They fit this frame to a T, and they were wonderful on the bike packing trip. And I've also got a PNW Coast dropper that has some squish in it to give you some suspension. I'll be telling you a little bit more about that. My name's Steve, I'm 5'6". I've been riding hardtail since 1994. I love hardtails. And I love talking about hardtails with people. And I love testing new hardtails. Lately I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, I'm short like you, I'm 5'8", or I'm 5'7", or 5'6". Can you really ride a 29er? Can it still be playful? Absolutely. 29ers have gotten so good. 27.5's fun, but when I'm on my 27.5 bikes, I'm not keeping up with my buddies. They just leave me in the dust. 29ers just have more momentum and roll quicker. And for trails like this, I really like them. Now, the secret to making 29ers work for small riders like me is really short chain stays. These are at 420 right now. If you're short and you're worried about your 29ers being too big for you, get chain stays 425 or shorter. Gives you a lot more room to move around on them and they don't feel so huge. Oh, this bike's a joy. So good. I mean, I really know the geo that I like, so when I get a custom bike built to my favorite geo, it's pretty magical. I've been able to ride so many bikes that I know exactly what I want. This is a lot like my Maniac. The seat angle's not quite as steep, head angle's not quite as slack, and reach is a tad shorter. And I did that on purpose because for bike packing, I prefer a less stretched out feel. I prefer it to be a little more compact, so it's more comfortable for 8 to 12 hour days in the saddle. And it fit great for bike packing. This is my favorite bike packing bike yet. I wish it could fit 29 by 30 because I'm weird like that. But for bike packing, have those 29 by 28 or 30s really give you cushion and a ton of traction. And they just make for a smoother ride. I've bike packed with full suspensions. I don't like it at all because your suspension's never set up right because your load is changing every day as you eat food and drink water and shift gear around. All right, hang on. I gotta think here. This is a tricky one. Can't talk. All right, that's the line. It's a tricky climb. Perfect place to test slow chunk, slow tech climbs. This PNW Coast dropper is not helping me at the moment. It sags when I don't want it to. See if I can clean this. This is a tough one. If you've been here, you know. It looks so flat on camera. This is Teacup Trail. Most people do not clean this. Oh yeah, come on, stick with it. Oh, nope. All right. Oh, this bike is nice. It's a joy to ride. I love these Stanton tie bars. I've got a 120 mil RockShox sit on here. It's not perfect, it's got some issues, but I really like the tall stack of this bike with the 120 fork. We designed it around a 120 fork, and it rides so good. You don't need more than 130 mil travel, even on an aggressive hardtail. They say if you run a longer fork, your bike just rides like a stapler, where the front end is just jacking up and down and up and down. Man, this has a good ride feel. It is not too stiff at all, even with these stiff wheels I've got on. It's incredible. You know, on paper, this bike isn't tons different than a lot of popular bikes, but it's all the little things. Most people have never been able to ride the same bike back to back and change just the chainstay by 5 to 10 millimeters. That makes a huge difference. I get a lot of people asking me, hey, how does bike A compare to bike B? They're pretty much the same geo. And I look, and one has a 420 chainstay and one has a 435. Sure, it's only 15 mil difference. That is a world of a difference on how a bike handles. So even though on paper, this bike looks like a lot of others, it's pretty special and it rides quite different than most. Reminds me a lot of my Maniac. A little bit shorter in reach. So I'd grab my Maniac over this in double black diamond tech. But man, for bike packing, for just goofing around here, this is great. Really zippy, fun bike. Despite the slack head angle, it still darts in and out of trees great because of that short rear end. Oh, I love it. Manual so well. Moment's notice, you don't even have to think, it just pops up. Excellent tech climber. I mean, it's a custom bike built to my specs, so I better love it. If I don't love the geo, it's my fault, not the builders. But man, what a treat. And these hand-built, small one-off builders, there is something magical about them. Kind of like the difference of going to get tacos at a fast food restaurant like Taco Bell. You know, you can get a taco at Taco Bell way cheaper than you can at the authentic Mexican restaurant from the lady from Oaxaca down the street. But it's not even close to the same experience. Same thing happens with these custom builders, usually. They all put their spin on how they think a bike should ride for your intended purpose. Oh, this thing is great. So let's talk about this PNW Coast dropper. It's kind of like a dropper and a thud buster in one. It's got like, I don't know how much suspension, but it kind of like gives when you hit big bumps. Now, if you're in the saddle all day, like bike packing, makes a ton of sense, and I loved it on my bike packing trip. For technical trail riding, just like a trail like tonight, I don't love it because it keeps moving when I don't want it to. I actually lean on my saddle and use it to weight the different tires differently. And when I shift my weight, it'll sink sometimes, and it's not quite predictable when it'll sink and when it won't. So I think it's an incredible invention for its intended purpose, but it would never be my everyday dropper. But for bike packing, it will be my dropper. It's not the same as a full suspension, obviously, but your sit bones don't get quite so hammered. And what it makes you do is stay seated way more. A lot of times I'll hover above the seat when I see chunk coming, but with this dropper, I'll just stay seated and know that the dropper will take out the washboards or a little bit of rocks in the way. I think a lot of my viewers who are older, who stay seated more, who ride more traditionally, maybe who aren't shredding and getting air and wheeling everywhere, I think you're gonna like this. If you have struggled to love droppers and you just stay seated most of the time, this will give you some cushion. And I know a lot of you viewers are gonna enjoy one of these. I'll do a separate video just on the coast dropper, but I thought I'd mention it. If you want to pick my brain more on any of these components or frames that I've ridden, head on over to my Patreon, where I have a bike consultation service where you can pick my brain on all things bike. The only thing I don't do is design custom geometry for you. That's not part of my service. So yeah, if you want to enjoy that, head over there. So right here, it's kind of choppy and chunky, but if you can stay seated and pedal through it, you can maintain some speed and momentum. And this dropper allows me to do that. It also kind of makes you lazy and makes you stay seated more because the bumps aren't harsh and you kind of feel like you're in a lazy boy. And it kind of takes the sting out and allows you to stay seated. And at least from your butt's perspective, it feels like a full suspension. Obviously it's not, but it makes you lazy and it makes you stay seated. Or maybe put another way, instead of it making you lazy, it allows you to keep pedaling where you otherwise would be coasting to avoid the bumps. So I think it makes a ton of sense on a hardtail. I think it makes a ton of sense on a gravel bike. I don't think it makes a ton of sense on a full suspension. But I'm grateful for PNW for sending it in so we could test it. So yeah, if most of your rides you're seated over 70% of the time and you've got some bumpy stuff, I think you might love one of these droppers. Okay, back to the frame. It feels lovely. Smooth ride. These custom frame builders don't have to overbuild their frames like all the big companies. I know I've said this over and over, but man, the most magical bikes I've ridden are bikes like this that are handmade by one-off dudes making custom frames who choose the tubing thickness and the design to match my weight, my riding style, my preference. And man, do you feel it. Hand-built frames like this in the New House and the Manzanita, they're the most supple bikes I've ridden. I've not found a production bike that feels quite this supple. Pretty magical. And that's because they can go thinner on tubing because they know I'm not going to huck it off a roof and they know I only weigh 175 pounds. So they build it with the tubing in mind, knowing that I want the bike to flex more than I want it to be stiff under acceleration. And this is a joy to ride. Does really well with these 2.6s too. Oh, I got the Geo just right. I wouldn't mind the C-tube half a degree steeper. It came out just a tad slacker than I was hoping. It's fine, but that's the only thing I'd change is make it half a degree steeper. But I can just slide my seat forward in the rails and get what I need. Oh, what a joy. What a special bike. So yeah, this is my favorite bike packing bike. And it worked out like I thought. A little shorter reach, a little bit slacker seat angle, nice tall stack, made for a super comfortable pedaling platform, sliding dropouts so I could get the wheelbase where I want it. I've really liked it in the short setting. Room for big 2.6s, awesome custom bags from Reroute Outdoors. Yeah, it's the best bike packing bike I've ridden. A close second place behind this is the Stanton Sherpa 853. That's a magical bike too. This one's a little more modern, a little longer. They're just as slack between the two. This has that much shorter chainstay though. That makes it super fun. So would this work as my only bike? Yes. I'd rather have it 10 mil longer in the reach and a degree steeper seat angle. But that's the beauty of a custom bike. I built this for one purpose, to bike pack. Here we go. It's a great climber. It's a great descender. It's a great all-rounder bike too, but it's just a superb bike packing bike. And if I'd wanted it to be my all-rounder, I would have put the Geo at the Binary Maniac Geo and it'd have been perfect for double black diamonds and black diamonds. The finish on this is beautiful. I love the powder coat. Just kind of a classic, classy looking frame. Man, a good steel frame is a thing of beauty. It's amazing how zippy and fun even at slow speeds. The slack head angle is when the rest of the geo's dialed. All right, I'm going to stop talking and just enjoy this ride on this wonderful bike. Man, a mass-produced bike is like going to Denny's to eat pancakes, whereas a custom bike like this is like going to your grandma's house and eating her buttermilk pancakes with homemade syrup. Doesn't even compare. Oh, this thing is magical. Such a good bike. Oh man, I love getting out in nature. Look at this awesome yucca tree blooming. I guess it's not a tree, it's a bush. Beautiful out here. What a bike. This bike's better than 99% of the bikes I've reviewed. Just something special about these handmade bikes. This thing is a joy. Fun to ride, fun to climb on. Man, it's just a great hardtails. And great hardtails are so fun. I mean, I'm charging up this climb because it just encourages you to go fast. And it responds so well. It's just so fun. Oh, what a treat. Look at this moment. What a moment. My goodness. Hardtails are so much fun. You know that, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I love hardtails, but I especially love special hardtails. This is up there with one of the top 10 most special hardtails I've ridden. So special. And the other ones that are built by small builders are in that top 10 list too. There's just such a difference between a custom built frame built by a good builder, built to your specs, instead of built to the 350-pound rider that needs to be able to have this frame survive underneath them without a warranty issue. And I talk about suppleness, I talk about compliance a ton, because great compliance tailored to your weight and your riding style, it's like the difference between having your rear suspension locked out or dialed for your weight on a full suspension. It's so different and it makes a world of a difference. So it's my job to suss those out and tell you how they feel. This is a special bike, so much fun. I'm sad I have to send this back to Axial because it's been a treat to ride. You guys are awesome. If you're interested in picking my brain on bikes or getting advice on which bike I recommend for you, or you need help building it up, you want to pick my brain on components, become a patron today. There's a link down in the description below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for loving hardtails. There's a party in the mountains and you're invited.